Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. So I went to take my vehicle for a drive the other day, and just when I was coming back, I noticed the ABS light and the traction control lights were both on. So when I got back home, I got out and looked around at the vehicle, and the ABS wires, right here is the ABS wire for the rear passenger side, and it'll be running to the center of the tire on the inside. So around here, the mud builds up pretty bad, and as you drive down the road, it starts to fall off. As I was looking at all the wiring, I assumed it was the front wires, but back here on the rear, you can see that it actually broke off. So I figure a big chunk of dirt, mud had breaking off as I was taking the vehicle into town, and more than likely it just ripped the wire apart, and now there's the ABS light and a traction control light on. If you follow the wire, it goes this way, and it sits right here behind the wheel. And what it does is it works like a speed sensor. It measures the rotation of the tire. So ABS wise, ABS stands for anti-lock brake system. So it keeps the brakes from locking up. For the traction control, it measures the rotation of the tire. Hypothetically, let's say this tire is spinning faster than the passenger side tire. The vehicle would determine that this driver's side tire would be spinning and therefore losing traction. It would reduce power to the tire that is spinning faster than the rest in order for it to regain its traction. And there's the sensor right there itself. There's the bolt that holds it in place. It measures how fast the tire is turning by counting the teeth as the teeth go by the sensor, and that's how it determines whether it's spinning faster or slower than any of the other tires. So what we're going to do here is just simply cut the wire, use some connectors, and simply connect it back up. So we're able to cut off this little portion. You want to be careful not to cut the inside of the wire, the insulation on these little wires. We use this wire stripping tool, and as you can see, these numbers on the side here, these are gauge numbers, which is the thickness of the wire, and this wire was 18 gauge. So we just simply stick the wire into the tiny little hole, and what it does is it cuts the insulation of the wire. And when I cut my wires, I usually bite down on the wire, and I just give it a little twist, and then I let go of it. Because if you use the tool to pull off the insulation, you end up cutting some of the wire. So just use the tool just to cut the insulation, and then use your fingernail to pull the insulation off. What I like to do is start with the difficult side. This portion you don't have much to play with, and then when you hook on the other end, it'll be a lot easier. And then just pinch the connector to the wire. Not all connectors are heat shrink. You're gonna have to look at your connectors whenever you buy them at AutoZone or O'Reilly, and make sure you get the heat shrink type, because if it's not a heat shrink type of connector, you're going to pretty much burn it, and it's not going to shrink. It's not going to do anything. Make sure you use the blue part of the flame, not the yellow portion, because you just want to melt the connector on. You don't need to burn it. This side is hardened pretty good, cooled down. The connector has grabbed the wire pretty good. And if it helps, you can also twist the wire so that the strands stay together. And if you have to, sometimes you have to cut off a little more insulation. Like in this case, there's not a lot of room to try to get this wire into this connector. So in my other video, I was hooking up another sensor wire. Around here, the dogs and the mice like to chew on the wires and tear them apart. So like I mentioned on that video, the wires are color coded. So when you're stripping the wires and hooking them back up, you simply reconnect the color to the same color and you should have no problem. In some cases, when the wires are cut, you're going to have two black wires. Now, all the ground wires, they simply go back to the negative portion of the battery. So you cannot get those ground wires mixed up. You don't have to worry about which one goes to which black wire goes to which. If you cross them and connect them back together, it'll still work. And now this tape is just to reinforce the connection. So when you apply the tape, make sure it's pretty thick. It'll help secure it. Pretty much it. It's all connected back together. Let's go start the vehicle and see if the code is still there. Start the vehicle. So we're going to hook up my code reader and see what this code is. So it looks like we got 3 codes here. And what we're going to do is we're going to go online, go to our phone and simply Google these codes, type in the year, make, and model, punch in these codes with it, and then the internet, and we'll look up these codes and see what it says. So the first code we looked up is the P0106, which is the MAPS sensor circuit. And on this vehicle, it's going to be this sensor right here, and it's indicating that it could be the sensor itself or it could be the wiring. Now this is something I'm not going to be looking at right now. Right now we're trying to figure out what the ABS light is on the dashboard, but at least we know the P106 is the map sensor. So the other code we looked up is the B1342, which is the ABS module. Now the computer is saying that the ABS module is not getting a signal from the sensor, the ABS sensor, by the tire. So the wiring that we just repaired is connected because the traction control light disappeared, but the ABS module is not getting a signal from this sensor. So more than likely this sensor is bad. Chunk of mud build up right here, and as it fell off on the road, more than likely it yanked on this portion of the wire, and it yanked on the sensor itself, damaging the sensor. And as old as this vehicle is, more than likely this sensor is bad. So there's a possibility that it might not even be this sensor. It could be one of the other sensors. I'm going to have to go around, look at the rest of those. Passenger side, got the tire off. Checking the wiring. Does not appear to be, but following the wire all the way down. Sensor doesn't appear to be loose. It is intact. So visually, it doesn't seem to be like there's a problem on the rear passenger side. So let's go take a look at the front. Driver side tire off. ABS sensor wire sitting up here. Mud was all over it. Had to clean it off. But the wiring all the way down, come behind here, goes around here, sits right here. So it actually is secure. Screw is intact. No wires broken on this side. So this one seems to be okay. The driver's side tire off. Same thing. The wiring appears to be intact. Runs back there. Comes around here. Sitting right there. Visually, there's nothing wrong with the ABS sensors on any of the other wheels. So, I mean, without a scan tool, without $1 million scan tool, call it $1 million because of how much it costs. It costs quite a bit. With the scan tool, we will be able to check the computer in real time. It would show us live data. We'll be able to look at all the sensor readings from each tire based off the graph values. More than likely, the sensor for the rear driver side, the wire we just repaired, would show no activity, meaning that sensor is bad. But without the scan tool, all we can do is go based off what we know, and that is the wire here was broken. And these wires are not easy to rip. You're not going to yank on it by hand and tear it apart as easily. So when the mud built up in this section, driving on the road 50-60 miles per hour, that force ripped the mud from this section and tore the wire off, and more than likely it yanked the wire down to the sensor behind the tire, and in this case the sensor is damaged. So my guess having looked at all the other sensors, all the other wiring, seeing that there's no problems with them, the wires on all the other tires are intact, there does not appear to be any visible damage compared to this tire. So more than likely it has to be the sensor on this tire. And like I said, this vehicle is kind of old, 2008, over 15 years old. Sensors will go out. From here we have three options. One, we could take the vehicle into a shop, have them check it with a scan tool. Diagnostic runs about $100 just for them to pinpoint the problem. Two, we could buy the sensor, replace the sensor, and see if that fixes the problem. See if that fixes the ABS light on the dashboard. Three, we could just drive the vehicle as it is. ABS is not going to affect how the vehicle runs. It is only going to affect how the vehicle stops. So leave a comment. Out of those three options, what would you do?